Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Moore. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, it is Purdue week, and I was not there for all of the interviews, but I don't think I heard the word Purdue at all tonight. But maybe Ryan Day talked about it, and I wasn't there for it.
Denzel Burke, the arbiter of all things truth at Ohio State football, did say Purdue's got some pretty good players. I'm not saying he was like expressing surprise when he said it. Like, Purdue, they got some pretty good players. They're better than their record. But I don't know that I heard anybody else mention Purdue. And there was even plenty of talk about chicken tenders, and still no mention of Purdue. But they do play Purdue this week. We just got wrapped up with Ryan Day, Denzel Burke, Jeremiah Smith, got a little bit of him, Seth McLaughlin, Lathan Ransom got a little bit back there. Jaden Fielding, Caden McDonald, Ty Hamilton. I did not see everybody. I spent most of my time with Ryan Day and Denzel Burke. A couple of housekeeping things. Tyleik Williams is probably good to go.
Does that mean available, or does that mean good to go?
Probably available, but could play. So the other thing he said, Ryan Day said after that, was the healthiest team at the end of the season is going to have the most success. So when you say he could probably go, and also the healthiest team is going to have the best success.
Did he say the healthiest team on November 9th or at the end of the season?
At the end of the season, yes. So he's available, Tom, but I do not expect him. We got an update on Kacmarek, who is probably still a couple of weeks away, which would fit right in line with where Ohio State needs him back against Indiana. But he's doing well, rehabbing well, and getting better and better, and healing quickly. So they're excited about the potential of getting him back. And I think that is all of the injury stuff. Talked to Lathan Ransom a little bit, and he mentioned he got injured at the end of the Oregon game, but didn't. He said, as he said, like, the game doesn't care, so you just got to keep playing while you're in the middle of it. But he's good. He's all set. He mentioned that Adam Stewart, who is one of the main rehab trainer that they have here, who's been around forever, like, sleeping over at JT Barrett's house to get him ready for the 2016 Michigan game and things like that. But he said, he's going to have Stu in his wedding because they've been around each other so much. He's been so instrumental in getting him healthy through all of his injuries. But I think that is all of the injury talk. Things look pretty good so far for the Buckeyes. No mention of Zen Mahalski, because at this point, I think the questions about the offensive line have been answered for a week.
Yeah, this feels like this is going to be a continuity week for the Ohio State offensive line. They haven't been able to have a continuity week in close to a month at this point. So I think they're going to be very happy to have a continuity week. And coming off of last week, you would think they would be happy to have a continuity week. Got a chance to talk to Seth McLaughlin a bunch. He is, as an offensive lineman so frequently is, a great interview. He was asked how they got why they're so good at the quarterback sneak. And he said, we work the crap out of it in practice. So that will be one thing that will play into that. He also said that he named someone on the team as a tough MFer.
Okay. Can I guess?
Yes, you may.
Is it offense or defense?
Offense.
Is it Carson Hintzman?
It is Will Howard. And it was actually a question about the pick six and sort of the mentality coming off of, hey, you're down 10-0 and you're in sort of a bad spot on the road. And he said, Will's a tough MFer, and did say, and that is an exact quote, MFer. It was not, I was going to ask. I'm not cleaning it up. That is little bracket sick at the end, SIC. That's a little journalism thing for you. Talked about him, just the fact that it was kind of like, well, that's on me. And then you move on. Yeah. That was it. Like, that's basically all it is. And that's the benefit of having a veteran quarterback that is not the first time he's done that. And so it's not going to be a head in your hands. Oh man. Oh boy. Oh, what did I do? It's just like, well, you got another 50 minutes or so. Guess you got to go make up for it and go win the game.
Yeah. And Will Howard, after you watched this, if you haven't watched him yesterday in yesterday's interviews, he talked about the first time he was able to really move past a play like that, and how you grow from it, and you have to be mature enough to move past it, and then have the confidence enough to know that you know what you're doing. And he's certainly a confident player now. And as Ryan Day said yesterday, he's the leader on the team. He didn't say he's a leader. He said he's the leader, which is what you want from your quarterback. We did not talk to Will Howard today, of course. We talked, since we're going to stick with the offense, the quarterback sneak stuff. Ryan Day was asked about that because you can't practice it with your quarterback, So how do you get good with it? And he mentioned that they did a lot of research. They've done a lot of studies about it, the best way, and they've talked to a lot of people about the best techniques. And so you kind of cut out all of the trial and error by figuring out what's the best way to do it and then do that. And so I think that has helped as well. It's made them more efficient at it. And at this point, they can't really do it enough. Now, you don't need to do it on 1st and 10, even though it was successful.
Mm-hmm.
But they've been very, very effective when they do it.
Mm-hmm.
And after coming off the Nebraska game, it's like, why not? Why didn't you do that more? And they certainly did this last game.
And Seth McLaughlin talked about, what's the key for him in terms of doing it. And he said, stay low, keep your legs moving, keep churning those legs. And it's simple. It's like Barney Stinson explaining how to run a marathon. It's like, well, you start running and then just don't stop running. You get low man wins, and you just keep those legs pushing. And it's simple, except it works. You just keep pushing.
Yeah, it's practice, the preparation, the competitive excellence, which brings me to Brandon Innes and his touchdown. Ryan Day said that they practiced it a bunch, but usually with Emeka. And at that point in the game, Brian Hartline's like, we need to give our guys a rest. So they gave them a rest, and they had all the backups out there. And so he wasn't sure if Brandon Innes even got to rep that in practice himself, but he ran it perfectly, he executed it perfectly. And that's where the mental reps that we always talk about year after year, how important those are. Competitive excellence of being ready to go when you're called upon. And they executed that one pretty well. And also some praise going out to the tight ends as a whole with the way they're playing. It's not perfect, but the effort is there. And I think they're even without Will Kacmarek at this point, I think they're better than people were giving them credit for, better than people were expecting them to be before the season.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I think I think they definitely miss Will Kacmarek, but I think they've picked it up to the point where it's not an issue. And you've got, with the offensive line having worked through some of the stuff the offensive lines had to work through, there's probably been a little more pressure on the tight ends to be in that spot to help out with Abdul Carter or whatever. And I think it's probably telling that all the times that you saw Abdul Carter make a play, it was when Donovan Jackson was alone and you didn't have a tight end over there. You didn't have a running back over there. So that, kind of tells you, hey, the tight ends and running backs are probably doing their part in terms of pass pro there, which is good. Yeah, those guys, it's not the group you necessarily would have expected coming into the year, because they brought in Will Kacmarek largely because of his blocking. And so you would figure that was where he was going to fit in the most. Without him, there was a real question, how would that pick up? And Jelani Thurman had a nice play on that 4th and 1. Bennett Christian has had a bigger role, I think, than you probably would have expected this year. And G. Scott has had some really big plays. So they've kind of done it by committee, but they've done it as a group.
Last year you would hear every week about Kate Stover's missed block here, missed block there. I don't know that we hear it so much. Maybe it's because the offensive line issues the last couple of weeks where it's like, listen, the tight end is not the biggest problem at this point. But it's, as Ryan Day also said earlier today, it's like if you're not hearing about them, then if you don't notice them, they're doing their jobs, which we talk about. Similar, Taker Shabola was asked about, and why is it him as the starter? And Ryan Day said that he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's supposed to be doing. It's just they need more consistency from him, but they love his size. They love his athleticism, and the potential is there, and you don't want to mess that up right now. So they will continue to stick with him. He gets singled out because he was the one offensive lineman that didn't grit out a champion. So that was one of the reasons he was asked about. But as Day said on Tuesday, he was close, but these aren't just everybody gets a prize type of situations.
Right. And you can much more easily correct mental errors or assignment errors than you can, hey, get bigger and also get more athletic. You can't they say that you can't teach size, and you can to a certain degree with diet and training and all that kind of stuff, but that only works to a certain degree. He's got kind of the pieces there. This is his first year starting. He is the least experienced. I mean, he's the least experienced in terms of reps among the guys who are starting on that line right now. So you would be, I think he would be the one who you would expect to be sort of still in process in terms of learning there. Someone else who is sort of in the learning process there is Carson Hinsman. Just the move from center to left guard. We didn't get a chance to talk to Carson Hinsman tonight, but we did get a chance to talk to Seth McLaughlin, who has played quite a bit of center, and said, he was asked, so what is the difference between center and left guard? He said, one thing you're probably not thinking about is you're snapping the ball with your right hand as a center. As a left guard, you get your left hand down, so everything's a little bit backwards. You're also a little bit further back from the line, so the timing of your punch is just a little bit different. It's just little stuff. It's not a massive change, but it's just different enough that it's like if you move the furniture in your house, and then you're walking around in the dark, and all of a sudden you're banging into tables and stuff, because it's like, well, I have this muscle memory for exactly how many steps it is for me, from here to the door, and all of a sudden, like, bam, I whack my shin on the coffee table. It's probably a little bit like that. Yeah, and Day even said, I think yesterday, that he didn't realize, even with the silent count, when the left guard is like looking back, and then it looks, they look back to ready for the snap, they tap the center, and then as they're whipping their head back, like, you've got to focus, and it's not just it's not an instantaneous thing. You've got to regather your vision and your assignment, and then get ready to go. So again, as we keep talking about, no procedure penalties there, but they also said offensively and defensively, like, this is a prove it week, because last week was great, but you've got to build on it, and that's the offensive line, and that's the defense, and we can move to the defense now. We did talk to Caden McDonald, who was asked about his goal line stand, particularly his play on third down, where he got in there, he got low, and he moved the pile back a couple of yards, and he said, I was thinking about my mom. And like making her happy, and just a small town boy. And then he didn't finish the rest of like the Journey lyrics or whatever, but I did ask him how many messages what was your phone like afterwards? He's like, just outrageous, the love that he was getting from Twitter and the messages from all of his people, but just really, really happy guy, and he's always got a smile on his face. Yeah, and we always see that. But to continue to see him play more and more, Ryan Day wants to see that more and more. Ty Hamilton was standing, there watching the interview like a proud big brother, from from younger brother to big brother, watching Caden McDonald and seeing the kind of path that he himself has had, and just playing gradually, and then big moments you're stepping up. Yeah, and that was a big moment, because he said Tyleik Williams went out and he knew someone had to step up. That's your opportunity, and he made the most of it. And that's how you see these guys sort of take on a bigger role, because I think if you look at how the defensive line rotation went for a lot of the beginning of the year, it was lean on the veterans, because the veterans are the ones and the veterans are the ones you can trust, and so in a big moment, you're going to lean on those guys. Well, then once Tyleik Williams goes down, then you don't have a veteran. So then what are you going to do? And the fact that they put Caden McDonald in is definitely one of those things that I know both of us will notice. Hey, someone goes down, who's the next guy to go in there? When it's him and it's not someone who's maybe older than him, that's sort of instructive to you. And then when you see him make that big play, that's sort of instructive to you. That's how you end up taking on a bigger role. And if Tyleik Williams is limited or doesn't play this weekend, I would certainly assume you're going to see a lot more of Caden McDonald. Yeah, and with Denzel Burke, getting to talk to him for the first time since the Oregon game, so immediately the first question was about the Oregon game and what went wrong, that sort of thing. And I don't even remember exactly what he said, but it was followed by next question. It was basically that's over. It happened. Next question. You move on from it, and the whole amnesia aspect of playing cornerback. Like, he's always been able to move on from things. He's responded well the past couple of weeks, so he's as confident as ever and has played well. He was asked about, is it tough to live with Davis Nigbinosa now after that interception there in the end zone? Obviously, and they're roommates on the road, so very happy for him. I asked him, have you ever had to practice with the mitts on? He's like, no. That's for others.
Yes.
That's not for me. We do apparently have a super chat
from Jason. How early do we see backup quarterbacks this week? We're approaching the time where Will Howard's second half reps become high risk, low reward.
So how early do we see backup quarterbacks this weekend? Let me answer that question with a question. What's the score? If Ohio State's up by 28 points at halftime, you're probably not seeing more than one drive of Will Howard in the second half. Probably.
My number is 35 to not see him again, even though 28 would be plenty.
Yeah.
But coaches are so risk averse. Like let's get one more score. Let's put 35 on the board. And if they end up with a field goal drive and it's 31, it's like maybe go one more. But they shouldn't need to.
Well, and this is the point of the year where you only are going to have so many more opportunities for getting Devin Brown some work, getting Julian saying some work. It sounds silly, but who won the coin toss? Who's getting the kickoff in the second half? If the opponent gets a kickoff in the second half and then your next drive is, your first drive comes starting at the 10-minute mark of the third quarter, how does that impact the decision? And I think it might impact the decision to a certain degree, because if you get a stop and then it's 10 minutes left in the third quarter and you want to get those other guys some work, maybe you see them. I feel like you probably see one drive in the second half, probably for Will Howard at least. That's
usually how it goes. When was the time that it hasn't? When it was 49-0 at the half or 56-0 at the half against Michigan State? Like, did CJ Stroud didn't play in the second half?
I believe that's right.
Generally, they come out for one more drive just to make it 35 or whatever. So
and it feels like every time we talk about this, then it's 17-3 at the half, and then the starting quarterback's playing into the fourth quarter. Yeah. And I'm sure they would love to have a big lead and be up 35-3 at the half or whatever, and be able to potentially have the backups in for at least a couple drives each. You're only getting like 3-4 drives in the second half a lot of times right now. So there just aren't that many reps to go around. And I know they want to keep the starters, rolling, but they want to keep the starters healthy. But man, you got to get the backup some reps, because you are one play away, whether it's Devin Brown or Julian Sayin or whatever the order is going to be when the rubber meets the road. Yeah,
you have an opportunity to give each of them a quarter, each of the backups a quarter if you want. Okay.
Just a follow up from Wingman Ted. More importantly, who do you see as the first backup in?
The first backup in is Devin Brown.
Yeah. Until you see otherwise, it's Devin Brown. It's been consistently Devin Brown the whole time. So I think I would say
there's been no movement or mention of movement on that front.
No, there's been no mention of movement, and we haven't really seen anything. We haven't really gotten an opportunity to see any movement on that since did Devin Brown play in the Iowa game, I think, at the end of the Iowa game, maybe for a drive. But again, that's a month ago, and that was probably one drive or two drives, and it was Devin Brown at that point. I don't think we've seen Julian Sayin since the Michigan State game, where he threw it deep on 4th and 1, and Ryan Day's reaction was like, well, you better complete it if you do. So that's going back to Michigan State was the first weekend of October. So now we're definitely a month away from the first.
I think we'll see both.
I would expect to see both. Yes.
Super chat, Mike Farino. Better question might be, how early does James Peoples get snaps?
How early does James Peoples get snaps? Thank you for the super chat. This is one, Mike, I'm looking forward to seeing James because we haven't seen him in a while. I would not be shocked if we see him in the first half. I'm expecting third quarter, though. I think, again, the healthiest team at the end of the season, and you've got an opportunity again now to play guys that have not played, and this will be a Sam Williams-Dixon. This will be, they'll get other guys in there. I would assume the lack of possessions, though, in the first half in these games means that you don't necessarily need to go away from Travion Henderson or Quinshon Judkins in the first half. They still need work as well because they've had so little over the course. I don't think either of them has had more than maybe 16 carries, and that's probably stretching it.
Yeah, between the limited number of possessions and limited number of snaps, and the fact that you're dividing the number one snaps basically in half between the two of them, they both have had a very limited workload compared to what they had last year. I think I'm doing this off the top of my head, but is Quinshon Judkins going to have half the number of carries in the regular season this year that he did last year at Ole Miss? I mean, it might be legitimately like half. So, and Travion Henderson missed a bunch of time last year, but he's probably might end up with similar numbers in terms of regular season carries. So you're not desperate to get those guys off the field to really save the tread on the tire necessarily, but you also have an opportunity where I'm sure they've burned James Peoples' redshirt by now.
I believe he's played 5 games.
So you might as well get him in as much as you can. And then Sam Williams-Dixon has played in 2, 3, something like that.
He's still good. They can play him in these next 2, and I believe he's okay.
And so I would look for them to potentially play him and try and get him at least, you get Peoples 6, 8 carries, you get Sam Williams-Dixon 2, 3 carries, something like that in each of the next couple of weeks. Just get him out there, give him a taste of action, give him some film to learn off of, all that kind of stuff. Take advantage of that redshirt rule. Give Sam Williams-Dixon some carries. Take advantage of the opportunity to get James Peoples some carries, get him in there, get him some film to learn off of.
One other freshman that we don't talk about a lot, Jeremiah Smith. I forgot to mention this.
Oh, what's his name?
Wide receiver from Florida. He did not.
Are you thinking of Devin Smith?
No. He's a number 4. You might have missed him, but
you thinking of Santonio Holmes?
No. I am thinking of Chris Vance. So that's who I'm thinking of. Way back 20 plus years ago for the viewers.
Bob Vance?
No. Anyway, no.
Vance Law.
Still no. Jeremiah Smith was asked about the play that was clearly, the deep shot. He said he thought the ball was going to go to Carnell Tate because there was a safety behind himself, and that the play was designed for Tate. So he stopped running, and then he saw it. And he's like, well, shoot. And then he started running again. Just, a lesson there, not to give up on the player, not to assume things. And it's funny when you compound that, or you combine that with Brian Day saying that they tell Will Howard, if a safety is even with Jeremiah, just throw it as far as you can. And that's kind of what Will Howard did on that one, and so he just had a little miscommunication. It snapped his touchdown streak. So now you have to start a new one. I did ask him, "Are you meeting your expectations this year?" He said, "No, I've still got more. It's not, I can do more." And I was going to be like, "Yeah, I know. I should have. I was going to tell you that you could be doing more." Because
I've only broken most of the single season true freshman records in the first weekend of November.
Not all of college football's true freshman records. So he did say it was pretty cool to have Chris Carter reach out to him on social media to congratulate him, because he understands that is now a 40-year-old record for the Buckeyes there.
Speaking of former Buckeyes, Caden McDonald talked about the fact that he was asked sort of, could you envision yourself, being in this spot at this point? And he talked about the fact that when he was a kid, and he said when he was 6 or 7, and the math does not work out on this, but when he was probably more like 9-ish, he said he remembered watching Braxton Miller do a spin move and was like, man, I'm going to go there. Now, he has not turned into exactly a Braxton Miller type player, but yeah, Braxton Miller doing a spin move, and he was a little kid, and this is just one of those kind of like, boy, we're getting old, Tony.
It wasn't even 10 years ago.
It was not even.
It was 9 years ago. It wasn't even so long ago that distance of time could drive a car yet. I mean, come on. Kevin, any questions there?
We got a couple. Wingman Ted, I love how our 4 through 6 receivers are better than the 1 through 3 receivers, at least half of the top 25 programs.
So the 4 through 6 receivers at Ohio State, are they better than the 1 through 3 at half of the top 25? I don't know if it's half. I think it's at least some, and I think it's probably more than half of the Big Ten. Is it half of the top 25?
Yeah, that's tough. We haven't seen enough of them to say, maybe we have. I'm sure Brandon Innes would probably start at a lot of places.
Yeah.
We know how they feel about Bryson Rogers here, but there's a pecking order. He's a versatile guy, can play both inside and outside. Jaden Ballard's been here forever. I'm sure he can be making plays at other places. I think half of the top 25 is a little steep, but certainly there are schools in the top 25 where each of those guys would be playing big time minutes.
There are schools that Ohio State played last week where multiple of those guys would probably be playing big time minutes at wide receiver.
Yeah, a good portion of Big Ten, I would say. Another one from Wingman Ted. How much did Bennett Christian get to participate with the team last season? Was he allowed to be on scout team or just a weight room guy?
Bennett Christian, I believe he was able to practice last year. He just could not play. So
Yes.
he got all of the work he could handle and like none of the Saturday rewards for it. And so, I mean, that takes a lot to stay at the same place and know that you can't play, but still want to give everything that you got, whether it's practice, whether it's scout team, training room, like wherever you are, he is preparing as if he's going to play, knowing that he's not going to play. And that's a tough ask. And then to come back and then to be playing before Will Kacmarek was even hurt. So like he was involved, and he's, he had the 58-yard touchdown catch earlier in the season.
Yeah, from saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he's playing more than I expected this year, considering how many tight ends they have. And we saw him even out snapping, getting more snaps than Jelani Thurman through the last month or so. So I think they're very pleased with him. He's still a redshirt sophomore. He's not perfect in run blocking, but the effort's always going to be there with that guy just because he's wanted it so bad.
Yeah, he has made a much bigger impact on this year's team than I was expecting. He's probably tight end 2 right now behind G. Scott with Will Kacmarek out. And you go back and you look at his ranking and hype coming out of high school versus Jelani Thurman's, and you would certainly have expected Thurman to be ahead of him. He's just kind of been a grinder. He's just sort of put in the work and done all the little stuff that they want out of tight ends, which is not the exciting stuff, but it's the stuff they want to see out of tight. We talk about this all the time with tight ends. It's like, how do you block? And it's the least exciting part of the job. But, well, I mean, sometimes for some tight ends, it is the most exciting part of the job. But it's not the sexy part of the position, but it's the thing that they really look at. And he's working his way up that ladder.
That's what they recruited him for, Kevin.
Another super chat from Jason. Bold prediction: a defensive and offensive statistic will be recorded by a walk-on this week.
Okay, so a bold prediction: an offensive and defensive statistic will be recorded by a walk-on this weekend. How bold is that?
Well, I mean, it's
because I would take that as one of mine. If
I think it's pretty bold, especially on defense. Because what are we thinking? Like Inky. Well, this year he plays now. It has to be defense because he plays special teams all the time.
Yeah.
So
the old Jordan Kovacs.
Yeah.
Club trillion gameplay.
I think defense would be is defense maybe like a 2-pointer in itself. I mean, like who? Well, Velasquez.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I mean, and Velasquez plays on kick. But
he has a pretty good chance playing linebacker, perhaps.
Yeah, and you'll see like. Is it Bryce Prater? There were 2 Praters, and we've gone from 2 Praters to 1 this year. I think it's Bryce Prater who's still on the
and
defensive
then you
line.
got the walk-on running back Cisse.
Yeah, Rashid Cisse.
He could maybe David Adolph.
Joe Berger on this team.
No. So that's a pretty good one. That's pretty bold.
Yeah.
Tom, you can have that if you want.
Yeah. So 2 points just for defense. I think I'll
No. I said me. I'm of course going to argue you down, Kevin.
Troy V. I'd like to see people get some first team reps if possible. You never know, and it's good to be prepared.
So getting James Peoples some first team reps. We talked about the fact you could see him get a drive in the first half or something like that, or come in for a few reps. I don't know that that's quite as important to me. We've talked about that in the past with getting the backup quarterback reps with the first team offensive line and first team receivers. That to me is a little more important than the running back. I know there's some cohesion stuff there with the line and all that kind of stuff, but to me, I don't know that that's as big a deal. And with 2 running backs, I don't know that they're going to want to take, you want to get those 2 guys as, you're already splitting the reps. Yeah. So I don't know that you're going to see that, but you might. It's possible.
And I think going back to the question about how soon you see the backup quarterbacks, I think if you want to get the backup quarterback, at least one of them with at least 1 drive with the first team offensive line, then they come out first drive of the third quarter. And that way you can play your backup with your starting offensive line and give that guy an opportunity to operate behind those.
Yeah.
All set. Anything else, Tom, that we heard today that you wanted to touch on And Lathan Ransom talked about the goal line stand and how he's like, well, they ran the ball 3 times, so I knew they were going to throw it on 4th down. And Matt Guerreri had gone over all of the pass plays that come out of their set, so he pretty much knew that they're going to run a pick to Tyler Warren and try to get him out there. So he jumped that right away, took that away. Caleb Downs, knew where he needed to be. So it goes back to kind of what Jim Knowles said yesterday about how Caleb Downs knows where the play is going. Lathan Ransom talked about how he knew where the play was going, knew it was going to be a pass, and was right there to stop it, because that was the first read, and it got shot down. And then you had to go to the second read, and it was not there either. So great job by him and the entire defense being ready for that. Not just the execution of stopping, but then knowing, you know what, I think I'm feeling a pass on this 4th down.
Yeah. A couple more quick things from Seth McLaughlin. Said it was helpful to have someone who's played center playing next to you, because Carson Hinsman will pick up on some of the same keys that Seth McLaughlin does, and it's not just everyone's looking at Seth McLaughlin going, okay, now what? So that he said that's helpful. Talk about Edric Houston, going up against Edric Houston in practice. Said he's a big, strong guy. He's young, but he's improving. Caden McDonald, he talked about Caden McDonald, Seth McLaughlin did, said he sees it every Tuesday during inside runs, said he's a freak inside. He said he's happy to see it happening against other people. And Caden McDonald talked about the inside run as well during practice. And he said, number 2 team in the country, soon to be number 1. So I thought that was interesting. Yes, with a bullet. Yes.
Okay. Another super chat from Jason. Now that Carson Hinsman is a starting guard, who else literally snaps in practice as an emergency center? Losing Hinsman also means losing the backup.
Well, the backup center at this point is, I believe, Josh Padilla. And, I've been told that there were thoughts that he would be the backup anyway later on this season. So he would probably, I don't know that he would, I guess he would have to be the next guy if they like Carson Hinsman where he is, because if he's comfortable there, do you really want to move him and then run into the same problem of now who's your left guard?
Yeah.
So
I would recommend they don't have any more offensive linemen get hurt. That would be my recommendation.
We also saw Luke Montgomery snapping in fall camp, so that's a possibility as well. So they've got some guys that they can turn to there. Got, Josh Padilla is seen as the center of the future here anyway. Wrestling background, that's what they recruited him for. That's what they signed him for. So he's just a second-year guy. So again, you don't want him playing just yet. Like, look at Carson Hinsman last year as a second-year guy. Shouldn't have been starting, but they had to. And now, so I think that's a question that if you ask Ryan Day or Justin Fry, they'd be like, let's just not talk about that.
What if we didn't?
Yeah. How about we don't?
It feels like Padilla's probably on that same track of Seth McLaughlin, where you could play him right now, but really you want to get another year before you kind of throw him into the fire.
Yeah. Anything else? No. I don't have anything else either. So that will go ahead and wrap it up. If you could hit the thumbs up before we go, we'd appreciate that. If you're watching live, or if you're watching plausibly live on YouTube, thank you very much. And of course, continue to find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Join up, become a member, become a premium member, and just $4.99 for the first month there. Come say hello to us there on the Buckeye Huddle message board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus, and see all of the great stuff behind the paywall there. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.